Welcome in to our midweek episode of the Bat Flip podcast. It is David here with Damien, and if you noticed today, all Major League Baseball players are wearing number 42. This is in honor of Jackie Robinson, the first player to break the color barrier in 1947 with the Brooklyn Dodgers at that time. And we know the story, right? Ranch Brickey recruited a Negro League player that he felt was extremely good. As the Dodgers general manager, brought in Jackie Robinson to break the color barrier, be the first one. He endured a lot of racism, a lot of jeers, taunts, and he went on to be a Hall of Famer and a player who we honor every April 15th. The thing that I think that gets lost when it comes to Jackie Robinson is that he was also a baseball player, right? He was a cultural phenomenon, an icon, an incredible man, but he's also a player. And we love to talk about baseball players on the Bat Flip podcast. We love to analyze. We love to look at the numbers and dig in. And that's what I want to do today. I want to dig into Jackie Robinson, the player. We know, right, all that he endured. But I want to get into, he's a Hall of Famer. What did he do? How did he do it? And Damien, I look at Jackie Robinson's career. We love talking about the Hall of Fame. Like, I would have suggested this guy was a Hall of Famer, knowing absolutely nothing else about him other than looking at the Fangraphs page, the Baseball Reference page.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a guy who, now that Negro League stats are accounted for in, 10 full-time seasons plus 34 games, he had almost a 60 WAR. Per Fangraphs, right? He played basically started in Major League Baseball at the time at age 28 through age 37. In his age 37 season, he even put up a 4.2 WAR. He was still legitimately good at the end of his career. And like you mentioned, a lot of people don't talk about, obviously they focus on the historical aspect as it kind of should be, right? Like, this was a monumental player in the history of baseball, and that's the way it should be known. But like, people do forget, or they don't even forget. It's not brought up how good of a baseball player he actually was. Like, to be able to do this, right? Mm-hmm. You're talking about a guy who had multiple 9-win seasons. Like I said, almost 60 WAR in 10 full seasons plus 34 games. And he basically, outside of I think an injury riddled at age 36, where he put up a 99 WRC plus, you're talking about a guy who was consistently in the 140s to 150s for most of his career in a WRC plus aspect of it. So it would have been fun to see how that translated to, today's game per se, because these numbers are different. Obviously, right. You're not going to have the home run totals and the stolen base totals. Everything's a little different from that time period. But like, the impact on the game itself as a human is there, but he also had almost an equally as impactful like historical outset as a player in baseball.
Right. And one of the things that I really love looking at when I came up with the idea for this video is Jackie Robinson's walk rate, because I look at his walk rate back in the day, right? This is a day where batting average would have been the preferred metric for every sports writer, right? For everybody analyzing the game, valuing players. Jackie Robinson put up a very good batting average, had a career 313 batting average. He also had a career walk rate of 12.7%, and then put up an on-base percentage for his career of 410, which, I mean, that is the ideal current modern-day baseball player, right? The guy who knows the strike zone, walks a ton, hits for contact, but also gets on base with the walk, and is able to, control the strike zone. He never struck out, it looks like, right? 5% career strikeout rate. That we're talking a different time, but this is the type of baseball player that I would argue modern baseball players are aspiring to be. Someone who can control the strike zone, hit for contact, hit for power, right? His slugging percentage for his career was 477, but he had a 500 slugging in all those big years where you talked about having like 9 WAR. He was a powerful hitter. Didn't have those. It was more of a doubles and triples type power, for sure. But this is the type of hitter that players today are looking to be when it comes to walking, when it comes to playing the field, because Jackie Robinson was a very good fielder. He accrued a ton of WAR. He was able to play both second base, shortstop, first base, and third base, right? So this is a guy that went in and he was a second baseman when he joined Major League Baseball and was shuffled over to first base immediately because the Dodgers had a second baseman, a white second baseman, and they didn't have a first baseman, so they just put Jackie Robinson at first base, and he was very good there. And then he eventually went over and played second base and was so good there, he won an MVP award.
Yeah.
And I brought it up right before the show to you. In order to win an MVP award as the first black man to play baseball, right, in the white league of Major League Baseball that it was at the time, he would have been going up against racist white sports writers, and he was so good that they voted him MVP anyway. I want to look at this 1949 season when he won MVP. He had 16 home runs, which, not all that impressive nowadays, right?
Right.
But a 342 batting average, a 432 on base, a 528 slugging for a 156 WRC plus. For counting stats, he had 37 steals, which this is before Ricky Henderson and Tim Raines and those guys set the stolen base, mark way above where it is now.
At the time, that led the league.
Right. That led the league. He also had 122 runs, which is up today is a ton of runs. It's scoring a lot. 124 RBI that's a power hitter RBI number.
Yeah.
That's the kind of number that typically goes along with 40 plus home runs. And that was as a second baseman. Fangraphs puts his defense rating at 16.7 runs. Typically that's, it's like around Bobby Witt did last year, basically. I mean, he basically had the Bobby Witt season in 1949, 2 years after breaking the color barrier and joining Major League Baseball, and won the MVP as a result of that, which is absurd. And then you think about it, right? That's his, age 29 season? Yeah, is his age 30 season.
Yeah.
Like, if only we could have gotten this guy starting like Juan Soto or Connor Griffin, one of these guys, these kids that are coming up these days. If we could have gotten 20 years of Jackie Robinson, what would his numbers be? Like that's the kind of thing I think about now, because like these seasons are so good. And then, you put that on Major League Baseball players today, right? It's like Bobby Witt type players right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you mentioned, it's incredible what you were able to do, especially in this time period, right? You mentioned 2 years after basically breaking the color barrier, where we all know that story and how hard it was to do that, and all the stuff he had to endure through that. 1947, he still won Rookie of the Year. He finished 5th in MVP the year he broke the color barrier. That's how good he had to be then, right? Yep. Then 2 years later to actually win that MVP, also was an all-star that year, right? Like, it's also a guy you don't just put into the all-star game. It was his first all-star appearance. This guy had 4 top 10 MVP finishes in this time period. 6 or 7 top 20 MVP finishes? In this time period, that is extremely hard to do, especially given the historical aspect of what you were battling with the racism and stuff there. So it's so hard to really define, as a modern baseball fan, to look back at the numbers. It's hard to say, like, well, how good really was he, right? Because you see these numbers and it doesn't eye pop the level of what the numbers do nowadays. But like you said, this would basically be the equivalent of what a Bobby Witt type would be doing at that period, right? Lower home runs, but that's because that wasn't the game. The stolen bases, I mean, even 37 stolen bases at some point might lead the league certain years, like in modern baseball. Even now the rules have changed a little bit over the last couple of years, but I bet if we took that 37 stolen bases and we look back over the last 20 years, you could find probably multiple seasons where that might help, or that might be close to leading the league at, that 342 average in there led the league that year, right? Like it's incredible the level of player that he was able to be it's not just the level of player, but also while withstanding all of the stuff we know from the historical aspect of what Jackie Robinson did. Like, in that thing, it's talked about how I want someone who's strong, someone who has the will to not fight back. Like, to be putting up these numbers while, you are being heckled all the time. We see how Major League Baseball players can't handle being heckled half the time by fans. Like, to the level of what Jackie was able to do while withstanding all of that, it is just a true marvel to kind of look back and be like, dang, this guy was really freaking good as a player. And we get to celebrate him every year on April 15th and the historical impact he had that way. And I think that's great. I think that we should also be able to, in this time period, during this day, also marvel and have the retrospective type of player that he actually was and how good he actually was in it, and remember that part as well, because I think those two, they can very easily go hand in hand, and it makes the level of what he did and everything be so much greater than just the one side that we get to know about every year.
So I'm right with you. I want to take a quick look at the 2025 leaderboards for a few stats, just to see where Jackie Robinson's best season and career would place, give you some comps, basically, as to what it looked like in 2025 for what Jackie Robinson did when he won his MVP and as a career player, right? So in his MVP season, Jackie Robinson had, I think, a 156 WRC plus. Last season, Juan Soto had a 156 WRC plus. So the level of player, Juan Soto had 43 home runs last year as a New York Met, right? Had a 396 on base, 156 WRC plus. Jackie Robinson equaled that when he won his MVP as a high elite defensive second baseman, mind you, which is bonkers. Yeah. As a career player, Jackie Robinson had a 137 WRC plus. I looked down at the leaderboard at who had a 137 WRC plus last year. A little guy by the name of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So modern day, Jackie Robinson was as good in his day as modern day first baseman and outfielding superstar players Juan Soto and Vlad Jr. are. Those guys are making a collective $1 billion on their contracts right now. $1.2 billion in total money has been allocated to players that had Jackie Robinson's career number at WRC plus and his MVP caliber best as a player, right? You put a guy that caliber on the field today, he's the kind of guy that's going to get the Juan Soto deal, right? He's going to get the Vlad Jr. deal. Like I'm firmly of the belief that like a guy that controls the strike zone that well would have adapted to the modern day.
Yeah, I mean, it would obviously be fascinating to see that, be in today's game and him specifically. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, obviously the level of pitching is a lot different nowadays. And you are absolutely correct. It absolutely is totally different. We can only go back and look at what you played against, right? And we can only try to guess what you would be like in each era, right? Like, would Juan Soto and Vlad go back to that era and be just as good? Probably. But but you could also say the argument of like, can Jackie come into this era and be as good?
Had Jackie grown up with the benefits of having a major league father like Vladimir Guerrero Jr.?
Well, yeah, like
or just the benefits of not being ostracized from baseball from perhaps his 6 or 7 most competitive potential seasons that Juan Soto got to play at the major league level at, probably would be better for him.
Exactly. There's a lot of what ifs. So that this video isn't like we are saying that Jackie Robinson is exactly this player in today's age. This is just to look back and say, like, while the historical impact is immense in what we know for what he did, we also want to recognize the level of player that he is, or was, I should say, and that is as equal to what he was able to do. Maybe not as equal, but it's close to, it's close to as good as a player you could hope to have got, and given everything that he was going through and had to endure during those times.
He had to be this good.
Yeah.
Because if he was unable to stay, think about how many baseball players come up and are not able to stick around at the major league level. If he had not been this good, we wouldn't have Eddie Matthews, who was, I believe, the second player to break the color barrier. We wouldn't have Hank Aaron, who came very shortly after, Willie Mays, right? All the way down to Griffey, A-Rod, David Ortiz. Like, we get all the way to nowadays with like the guys we talked about, Vlad, Soto. They're all here because of Jackie Robinson. And that is the aspect that you mentioned. But again, I think he's still underrated because we forget that not only was he able to break the color barrier, but he was also as good a player in his day as those guys are today.
Yeah.
And that's what I think makes him all the more special, and something that I think we haven't been able to focus on every single season. But this year, while they're wearing number 42 today, I'll be thinking about just, how dang good Jackie Robinson was at baseball.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So for us, the Bat Flip podcast, that was a little waxing poetic on Jackie Robinson. Please like, subscribe, come back. We have a show every Monday. Tune in. It should be fun, and enjoy April 15th, Jackie Robinson Day.